It's 16th days, and we're in this David against Goliath fight, being much smaller country, but we are the country that is defending our territory. We're peaceful. We never attacked anyone. We just lived and, planned our peaceful development, how we can make a better life for our citizens. We were brutally attacked. We're defending our homes. And regardless of what they're doing to us, the resolve is there. And everyone is committed to defending our country. So I believe morally we have won already. But now we, together with all the civilized world, have to do everything possible to preserve every life.
That is the Ukrainian ambassador to the U.S., Oksana Markarova, speaking earlier today about the situation there, which I'm sure if you've been following is getting worse and worse by the day. Inna SOVSUN, who's an elected member of parliament in Ukraine, who we've spoken to in the past, is with us today. First of all, Inna, thank you for being here. And my first question to you is, are you okay?
Thanks for having me again. I'm alive. That's and all my loved ones are alive and safe. So compared to thousands of other people here in Ukraine, I do feel blessed. But that is under the circumstances.
And where
if someone asked me about this 3 weeks ago, my life was completely different 3 weeks ago.
Okay. And where exactly are you now as we're speaking?
I'm in Kiev region. I'm staying with some friends. I was staying with some other friends in the city before, but they decided to evacuate, like many other people, after we saw what the Russians were doing to the civilian population of the neighboring towns of Irpin and Bucha. It's now clear that every civilian who can evacuate should probably do so because they want to, because the Russians are basically keeping the civilian population of the cities they get into as hostages. So many people did leave the city, and I had to find some other place to stay for myself, and I'm staying with some friends in Kiev region right now.
And how about your son and your boyfriend?
They are all right. This morning, we all woke up to the news that the Russians' airstrike hit two cities in western Ukraine. And my son is in the western Ukraine, not where the bombs exploded. But that is, of course, making me nervous because we're seeing that those airstrikes are getting more and more random. And they're just hitting random towns just to keep everyone terrified. So that is breaking my heart. And I had to talk to my son and to explain to him that things are happening. And then he did look terrified. He asked me, Mom, how is Kiev? Are they bombarding the city? And I said, well, luckily not right now. But he was really, really concerned. I could see that we were video chatting, and he was very worried. And, my boyfriend is, again, alive, which is as good as it gets for a soldier right now, for someone in the army right now. I don't know where he is, though. He doesn't tell me. But, I hope he stays safe.
You know, you mentioned that if you've stayed in Ukraine and Kiev anyway, up until now as you had, eventually you have to get out. And we keep hearing the story about that Russian convoy, those tanks coming up that road, getting closer and closer every day. From what you know, have most people left? And I ask this question only because we were talking to someone the other day who was in Lviv, and things there seemed relatively, and I'm using that term in quotes, relatively normal compared to what we see going on in Kiev. So with respect to Kiev, are people streaming out every day? Can they still get out?
They can, and a lot of people are, for multiple reasons. First of all, of course, people with families, with children, are trying to make sure that their children do not fall victims to the Russian aggression. Many people are leaving temporarily because they don't want to put too much pressure on the city infrastructure. So that is another concern for people with not enough food being supplied to the supermarkets and so on and so forth. It does make sense for some people are making decisions that probably we should stay somewhere else so that we don't put too much pressure. And in the city of Kiev, we concentrate all resources in supporting the army primarily. But there are still, the city mayor, Vitaly Klitschko, said that about 2 million people are still in the cities. That's still a huge number of people in the city. We do hope that the Russians will not get in. I will be honest with you, because we did fortify the city extremely. Like, getting into the city is extremely difficult right now because of all the checkpoints and blocks on the entrances. And there is a huge territorial defense force inside the city. I actually, today in the morning, and we are almost 11 in the evening here in Kyiv, but today in the morning I was, a friend of mine asked if I know someone who can help her brother get into the territorial defense, because they're not taking any more people, because they are overstaffed right now. That is the level of resolve that we are seeing here. And I'm sure that we absolutely can win this on the ground, as long as we get support from the air and from those terrifying and mind-numbing attacks from air that Russia is doing.
So when you say support from the air, one of the last times we spoke, you asked for more sanctions and for a no-fly zone. How do you feel about the progress or lack thereof that's been made?
Well, we do see progress in terms of sanctions. We still believe they are too slow. I believe that if the whole sanctions that we have as of today were introduced the first day of war, that would have been a completely different situation, and life would have been saved. So we are just asking the world to realize that this is the monster that we're dealing with. This is the Hitler of the 21st century. And waiting, let's not escalate too much. This argument that we are hearing is not working. Every time Putin is hearing that, he understands that the West and Ukraine, the world is too weak to respond, and he pushes further. Putin only reacts to force. He only reacts to pressure, and that is what needs to be understood clearly. So the sanctions that are being put in place are, well, we are welcoming them. We are still asking for full trade embargo. We are still asking for total cancellation of visas for everyone in Russia who is involved in any way in supporting the war against Ukraine, and their family members, which is crucially important. But there is a progress in terms of sanctions. In terms of support for the no-fly zone, that remains a very contested issue, and it pains me to see so, because the Russians are already basically saying that they're planning to use chemical weapons against Ukraine. So I just wonder when will be the red line when the West will say, okay, we've had enough. And I wonder if that red line is estimated in number of deaths that the West will see, because I don't want that to be the price we have to pay for getting the no-fly zone. I really hope the world understands the level of evil we're dealing with earlier and tries to intervene earlier. With the fighter jets and the air defense system, we are completely willing to operate that ourselves. We just need the technology in order to be able to save ourselves and, well, the world from this Hitler of our times.
You know, Inez, I hear you mention where is that red line? At what point does the rest of the world or the West or NATO step up and say, okay, now we have to do something? You brought up that issue of chemical weapons, and Russia's already trying to make an excuse for that today. I don't know that you've heard, saying that, in fact, it's Ukraine who's being supplied by the U.S. with these chemical weapons. So that's, again, a false flag that the Russians try to use to say that it's okay for them, I would guess, to go ahead and do this. That'll be their defense. I wonder, Inez, sadly, is there even a red line? Because every time you hear the U.S. talk about that no-fly zone, it's always a matter, and I think Joe Biden said it again today, they don't want to get involved because they feel that would broaden the war, or for all intents and purposes, and he said that today, could start World War III. And I wonder how that makes you feel when you hear that.
I think that the world and the West is in denial. I think this is denial of the reality, because Putin did start the World War III. The question is if we let him proceed with that, or if we stop him here in Ukraine. And this denial is not helping anyone except for Putin, because he is planning to go further. He is completely out of his mind, and he will not stop himself. And it's a difficult reality to grasp, but that is what the world needs to understand right now, that he will not stop. And every time the West allows him to do something, saying that we don't want to escalate, he goes further. He took part of Georgia. The West said, okay, let's not escalate. Then he took Crimea. The West said, well, okay, we'll do some sanctions, but, not enough. Let's see what happens. Probably he will not escalate. Every time we hear this argument, for Putin, that translates into, okay, I can go further. That is extremely important to understand. This is scary. I know this is scary. But trust me, it's even more scary for us here. We are literally like fighting for our lives here. So this is a scary reality to comprehend, but the West needs to comprehend that. That this argument that we don't want to escalate, well, it's not working, because then Putin is escalating even further without a decent response from the West. And second thing, and that is important to understand, that this let's not escalate because they have a powerful army. That argument doesn't hold either, because this powerful army cannot really do much about the Ukrainian army. All they can, like the only enemy that they can fight against are Ukrainian children and elderly people whom they are bombarding from air. But in terms of army itself, it's actually so much weaker than everyone thought, I think including Putin. I think Putin really thought that his army is much stronger than it turned out to be. So it's not that scary if that's that statement. That's, it is extremely scary, of course, and all. But fighting against Russian army is possible, and winning against Russian army is possible. But pretending they're not going to go further, well, that is just naive, and that is just playing denial. And I wish the West to stop doing that.
Ina, have you thought of leaving? Have you thought of leaving Kyiv or the Ukraine?
I haven't thought of leaving Ukraine, that's for sure. I'm thinking whether I should go visit my son in Western Ukraine, because I think he needs my support. And he's still in Ukraine, and I'm not, we are all staying as of now. We do hope we will be able to stay.
Mm-hmm.
But given that the situation definitely will not resolve itself in the near future, I'm thinking that I probably should go visit him, because he needs his mom after all.
I'm sure.
All right, Ina, I thank you so much again for making yourself available and talking to us, and obviously wishing you nothing but the best. Please stay safe, and hope we can chat again soon.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Ina
Thank you so
SOVSUN,
much, Ina. You're incredible.
Elected member of parliament in Ukraine, giving you pretty much a ground's eye of, basically play-by-play of what's been going on there, what continues to happen there. And, it's interesting, Natasha, to hear that sort of East versus West mentality, or maybe Ukraine versus rest of the world mentality in terms of that no-fly zone. And the West, as she says, her words, being naive or being in denial to think that this is the end for Vladimir Putin, like he would stop here just because he wins. No. We keep hearing that over and over again. And I don't know, I tend to listen to people there who know that situation much better than people who are not there, and think to myself, where is that red line? Will it be chemical weapons? Where is that line? Is there even a line? Is there a line?
I think she's right, too, that Putin launched World War III. He knew exactly what he was doing and what it meant, the greater implications of it. He's a madman, but he's no dummy.